waiting for your life to start. You're standing in the doorway of your own life, waiting for someone to invite you in. You think there's a start button somewhere, a certain amount of money in the bank, a specific degree on the wall, or a level of confidence you haven't reached yet. You tell yourself that once the circumstances are perfect, you'll finally lock in and become the person you're meant to be. But here is the cold, hard truth. You are already living your life. This is it. This isn't a rehearsal, it's not a tutorial, and it's definitely not a waiting room. Every day you spend preparing for the future without actually building it is just a day you've decided to stay dead. A lot of guys treat their youth like a loading screen. They think they're in a grace period where their actions don't really count yet. They wake up thinking about what they'll do next year, or how they'll grind once they move out, or how they'll start the gym once the weather gets better. They judge their potential based on a future version of themselves that doesn't even exist. And frankly, that's a pretty stupid way to live, because you're placing your self-worth on a ghost. Most people in our generation aren't actually waiting for an opportunity. They're waiting for permission. They're waiting for the world to tell them it's okay to be great. It won't. The world is perfectly happy with you staying exactly where you are, a spectator. Most people aren't looking for a mission, they're looking for relief. Relief from the anxiety of being behind, relief from the boredom of their own thoughts, and relief from the nagging feeling that they are wasting their best years. They think that one day everything will just click and the motivation will magically appear. It won't. That's the core of the trap. You think you're waiting for life to start, but life is actually waiting for you to start. If you're empty and directionless now, having more time or more money isn't going to fix that. It'll just give you a bigger room to be empty in. I see this all the time with people I know. They have these massive dreams, but their daily habits are completely disconnected from those dreams. They talk like lions, but live like sheep. They think that because they have big plans, they're somehow different from the average person. They aren't. Your plans don't mean anything if your actions don't back them up. Knowledge without execution is just a heavier burden to carry. It's a sophisticated way of procrastinating. You think you're studying or researching, but you're actually just terrified of the work. You're terrified of failing, so you stay in the waiting phase because as long as you haven't started, you haven't failed yet. But by not starting, you've already lost by default. Here is the question I think more people need to ask. What is your waiting actually costing you? Seriously, if you're in your late teens or early 20s, the years where you have the most energy, the least amount of responsibility, and the highest capacity to take risks, what are you realistically doing with that advantage? People never ask that. They only think about what they're going to do. They think they have an infinite supply of time, so they spend it like it's worthless. They spend the morning scrolling, the afternoon chilling, and the evening feeling a vague sense of guilt that they drown out with more entertainment. They almost never think about the momentum they're losing. Focus, energy, and the edge, all of that is a perishable resource. You were about to work on that business idea, but then you thought, I'll do it when I have more experience. You were about to hit the gym, but you thought, I'll wait until I have a better program. You were about to learn that skill, but you told yourself you'd start next Monday. And before you know it, Monday becomes next month, and next month becomes next year. Before you know it, you're 25 with no skills, no discipline, and no direction, wondering why the world feels so heavy. And before anyone gets emotional, I'm not saying you need to be a billionaire by 20. I'm saying the average Gen Z lifestyle is built on a delusion of later. A break is a reward you earn after a victory, but most of the breaks you're taking right now aren't rewards. They're escapes. You're escaping the reality that you haven't built anything yet. Your comfort is just a distraction from your lack of purpose. I've felt that myself too. There was a point where I was just waiting for the right time to start this channel, or the right time to get serious about my health. I could feel the fog setting in. Not because I was lazy, but because I was waiting for a feeling of readiness that was never going to come. I would spend hours looking at gear, watching other creators, and telling myself I was learning. But the truth was, I was just scared to be bad at it. I was scared to put myself out there and realize I wasn't as good as I thought I was. At some point, it hit me. I was never going to feel ready. Readiness is a myth. You don't get ready to start, you start to get ready. The clarity only comes through the work. That's when I understood something critical. A lot of young guys don't stay in the waiting room because they want to. They stay because everyone around them is doing the same thing. Your friends are waiting, social media is telling you to take it easy, and everything makes it look like you have all the time in the world. That's a lie. Time is the only thing you can't get more of. A man's value isn't decided by his potential. It's decided by his results, his discipline, his self-control, and his ability to produce something real in a world full of fakes. That stuff matters. A lot of people are giving away their prime years because they're scared of being a beginner. They're insecure, so they hide behind their phones. They're bored, so they turn digital consumption into a lifestyle. And because they never commit to something difficult, they never build any real self-esteem. That's why I keep saying that comfort won't make you happy. Because if you're waiting for life to start, you're living in a state of constant anxiety. You'll just be more distracted, and eventually, the distraction wears off, and you're left with the same empty feeling. Let me make something clear. This isn't me saying you should isolate yourself and never have a social life. That would be stupid. Being social is a requirement for a successful life. Too many guys now can't even hold a conversation because they've spent their whole lives behind a screen. That is embarrassing. You should be able to navigate the real world. You should be able to lead. You should be able to sit in a quiet room for an hour without reaching for your phone. That is part of becoming a normal, capable man. No, this isn't telling you to become a bitter loser who says he's above the game because he's scared to play it. What I am saying is much simpler. Stop acting like you're waiting for a bus that isn't coming. You don't need another sign. You probably don't need another tutorial. What you probably need is a deadline. You need to become sharper, calmer, and more capable. Because once a man actually takes the first step, everything changes. Now he isn't looking for a reason to start. He's looking for a way to keep going. He isn't choosing between distractions. He's choosing whether something fits into the mission he's already on. And that's a way healthier position to be in. It's like the butterfly example. The guy who spends his whole life chasing butterflies usually ends up with nothing. But the guy who builds a garden, the guy who works the soil, plants the seeds, and stays consistent, he ends up with the butterflies coming to him. And even if they don't, he still has a garden. That's how it works with success, with relationships, and with respect. Build yourself, build your body, build your mind. Then the life you've been waiting for will finally show up. And if it doesn't, you still built a strong life. That's a win either way. A lot of people need to hear that because they're wasting their youth trying to be ready instead of trying to be reliable. That mindset ruins so many people. I don't think leisure is a sin. I think the average guy puts way too much importance on his waiting time when in reality, that time is the only thing he has to trade for a future he actually wants. The waiting room is real. It's comfortable, it's safe, and it's crowded with people who will never leave. But that room won't make you happy. Especially not if you're using it to cover up the fact that you're scared of your own potential. Those problems don't disappear because you got older. They just get louder. So stop waiting for the answer. Go build it. Go learn. Go be normal in a room full of people, but keep your focus where it belongs, on becoming a man with something real behind him. Because the truth is, the right moment can add to a strong life, but it cannot build one for you. And if you're still in that stage where your whole future is waiting to be shaped, then that should matter more than any temporary comfort. Build your own life first, then decide when you're ready to stop. That's the only way to truly live.